We start with some sad news about a fellow Saints fan, Paul Castle, who passed away before Christmas after a short illness at the age of 61. Many of you will have known Paul as a sponsor of both the club and this podcast, and Glen has put together a few words on our behalf to honour Paul and what he meant to us as a supporter and a previous contributor to TSP.
Yeah. When we were looking for a sponsor for TSP a couple of years ago, Paul stepped up with a sponsorship deal that kind of guaranteed the podcast kept going and that we would carry on meeting the costs incurred with putting this all together. He has appeared on the podcast a few times himself, as you say, and fitted right in. I think his approach could be best described as no bullshit. With Paul being roughly the same age as myself, we became friends away from the podcast. And we used to talk about the fact that even into his late 50s, he would still let a bad Saints result ruin every weekend. A fact that was confirmed by every one of his family who I've had the privilege to meet over the past couple of years. He wondered if I was the same. I told him that I was indeed the same until I was about 30. But then it changed. He seemed genuinely interested and asked what happened. And I paused for comedic effect before saying, I decided it was time I fucking well grow up and you should do the same. He did laugh, but despite knowing I was right and that he was being a bit of an arse, I think he remained steadfast in his grumpiness after a bad result right to the end. He had plenty to be grumpy about in his last full season, which of course was the horrific 12-point Premier League season of 24-25. Grumpiness was in overdrive as he didn't witness a single home league win, as he managed to miss the Everton game. Though he did see us beat Swansea in the FA Cup, which is a game where he invited Steve and myself up to his hospitality box and then kind of tricked me into walking onto the pitch before the game and having a photo taken with the match officials, the mascots, and a slightly confused-looking Jan Bednarek, who didn't know what the hell I was doing there, and nor did I. Paul passed away on the afternoon of the day that Saints played West Brom at home just before Christmas. If you'll remember, in that game, we stormed to a 3-0 lead and then were terrible in the second half, just about escaping with a 3-2 win. Familiar? I can easily imagine what Paul would have been thinking watching that, happy at half-time and then sinking into the depths of misery as the second half went on. Glad we held on for a win as his name, Paul Castle Associates, went round the advertising boards at the end. And we haven't won a league game since. Paul always took an interest in the League 1-10 blog as well and insisted that I set him a link on WhatsApp every time I wrote one because he used to claim technophobia and his inability to look it up. He also insisted that our TSP producer, Alex, did exactly the same thing with links to every podcast that we put out. He did manage to send me a link, though, to his Just Giving page. As recently as August, Paul did a ridiculous 360-kilometre sponsored walk to raise money for the Big Moose mental health charity, wearing his Saints shirt wherever he went, various locations around the south, and quite often being roundly abused for doing so, as you can imagine. He was also majorly involved in arranging various charity walks for the Saints Foundation, in which Francis Benali, amongst others, have participated. Last saw Paul to talk to a week before he passed away when Alfie and myself went up to Winchester to visit. Bearing in mind that he, of course, knew that he didn't have long at this stage, we were quite stunned that he made a point of telling us that he had made provision to carry on supporting the podcast for the company after his passing. I think it speaks to his character as a man who honours his commitments, and it speaks of his support for all things to do with Southampton Football Club. Yeah. So on behalf of everyone at TSP, I'd like to extend our condolences to family and friends, particularly his son Thomas and daughter Holly, and to Paul himself, rest in peace, mate.